Because yes, it's expensive, but I can tell you, we are a value brand, right? Set of value or other super value brands, and we've always had affordability. But along with that, now we're working on sustainability. So if somebody were to walk up and say, here is a huge additional charge for getting, let's say, biofuel, it's not easy for us to move that. But I can tell you there is so much waste in the system that right now what we found is all our efforts to remove dollars from our value chain is also resulting in removing carbon. So we are finding savings to offset, whether it's switching to biofuels. We are working with our shipping companies to be the first in line as they move to green ethanol. We raised our hands, but we make it as part of the overall rate negotiation. You can't like say suddenly here's a huge upcharge. But yes, as part of an overall negotiation, we are happy to say, okay, give us move 10% of our shipping to green. All our trucks, so we are the largest home delivery network after Amazon, and with 90% of home deliveries happening with our own vehicles. And for all our home brands, we've switched to biofuels, to whatever is available, whatever is possible. To entrepreneurs, I would say this is a fantastic opportunity. There is no doubt every company will have to have biofuels in their mix of energy, because without that, we can't go to net zero. So we are looking for solutions to come. Unfortunately, to say you can get a premium is going to be a challenge. But I think for a brand, if you think about it, if we are not sustainably oriented, our customers will not even put us in their consideration set. So I think you have to make that transition, you have to balance it. We are making some investments, but obviously our customers are talking in surveys that 86% of Arab youth say they will shun a brand which is not sustainable. But at the point of sale, I haven't seen yet somebody paying 5 dirhams extra for the jeans. But it's coming. I think if you are not treating the planet well, your brand will not be on the consideration set. So I think it's a tough call. I can't give you a straight answer that yes, people will give you a premium.
Good. So it's the customer pressure which is driving companies to become sustainable, and it's up to the companies to find out how they can make it more economical and interesting. Next, I would like to tell Mr. Prasanna Rao, a visionary leader who is steering shipping and logistics industry towards a sustainable future. After a distinguished career in Notre Dame, he founded Nilanka to deliver science-driven ESG solutions. He is a true change maker, empowering business with his proprietary platform, Vajra, and proving that progress is inclusive by building a dynamic team with talent from across Muslim India. So we welcome him to the panel. And Mr. Rao, maritime industry is critical to the global trade, but as Mr. Rajesh also mentioned, it's also a major source of emissions. So what are the most promising biofuel or sustainable energy pathways for decarbonizing shipping, and the key logistical challenge with infrastructure, supply or policy that we must solve to accelerate this transition?
Good evening, everyone. I'll try not to keep you sleeping, and let's see if we can attract more people into the fastly crowded outlet. Let's go into the facts and figures. Okay? We talk about biofuel, we talk about ocean transport. Total consumption of fossil fuel on the ocean side is roughly about 4.3 million barrels a day. That accounts for roughly about 330 million tons of fossil fuel being consumed every year on the ocean transport side. Now, this is 2023 figures. Okay? Biofuel at the same time, only 1.65 million tons of biofuel was supplied to Ocean Transport. Only 1.6%, right? That's just 0.5% of the total ocean transport fossil fuel consumption. Just 0.5%. And what are the two locations where they supply that? Singapore and Rotterdam. So that itself, gets you thinking, why only Singapore and Rotterdam? Basically, there's a flaw in the whole application of biofuel in the ocean transport segment. Like any industry, so we're talking also about hydrogen, we're talking about methanol, we're talking about various other alternative fuel, sustainable solutions for replacing fossil fuel. Those solutions are very, very long term because they're very cost intensive. That's rightly pointed. Somebody has to retrofit. So if you have a ship, a regular bark ship, which is coming fresh off the yard at a cost of $30 million, and then you have a methanol powered ship, which is coming at $150 million. You don't have an apples to apples comparison when you're doing the same route of transport. But the larger problem with respect to any alternate fuel, biofuel is one of the largest problems of problem sector. A is the availability of biofuel. There is no consistent availability of biofuel which can serve as a consistent replacement to a fixed percentage of fossil fuel. Even if it is 1%, 2%, you set a target, it's very difficult to achieve it. The second part is the supply chain and logistics, or the fuel itself. So if today you look at fossil fuel supply facilities, we operate ships, we transport them, we operate them, we operate them on global routes. We have fueling facilities at Fujairah, at Kolkata, fueling facilities. We can take fuel at almost all ports in India. We can take fuel at Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Chinese ports, all the American main ports, European-based ports, Gibraltar. I can list out the number of ports, including Port Louis, which is a small island in the Indian Ocean, or if you go down to West Africa, you've got fuel stations all along the way. Now, you have to create the same kind of logistic facility for storage and transportation of this biofuel to as many locations as possible. And in 1.65 million tons, it's just not feasible, it's just not viable, right? So it's only restricted to Singapore and Rotterdam at this stage. And there is a third problem, which is, I think, one of the largest problems from a shipowner standpoint. That's the warranties for the engine manufacturer. These are very large, sophisticated engines, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 bhp class engines. Engine manufacturers like, all the Europeans, whether it's MAN, whether it's any of the engine manufacturers, they specify a particular quality of fuel to be used in order to guarantee performance of the engine. Now you start talking about blending biofuels. No matter what kind of testing you do, the first problem in the engine, and the manufacturer might say, I'm not responsible for this. You guys want to do what you want to do, but I'm not on the other side. I'm not able to do it. So, where is it feasible to have biofuel replacing fossil fuel on a longer ocean route? I think where the trick is being missed, and where I think the government should start looking at enforcing the use of biofuel is on the short sea trade, coastal trade. You can operate in, let's say you are ships operating between, one port in Gujarat to one port in Maharashtra. We're talking about smaller ships. It's easier to manage supply chain, it's easier to manage issues with the engine, and it's easier to kind of reduce the impact of fossil fuel to small sections. And another important part is cost. Fossil fuel is a global market. When you talk about those of fuel oil, it is linked to Brent, it's linked to WTI. So your prices keep varying up and down. Biofuel, there are times when biofuel get more expensive than fossil fuel. The ship owner said, well, I don't want to pay that. So this is a challenge with biofuel coming into ocean transport.
Yes.
The challenge of reliability, the engine manufacturers protocol.
It's a range of problems. It's not just one single problem.
Can you start with a selective way?
Shorter sea routes, smaller ships, there is a possibility that you can, bring a change, and then gradually scale it.
And we also have with us today Mr. Guru Vivans, who brings a unique and powerful perspective. Born as a former US Marine, his personal experience with the resource competition ignited a mission to foster cooperation to a circular economy. As the founder of Nexus Resilience Group, he uses cutting-edge AI and data management, like the Nexus AI platform that helps solve Cape Town's water crisis, to build a more resilient and harmonious world, along with Mr. Vivans. In this today's complex world, environmental sustainability cannot be considered a mere CSR checklist item. Using the examples of water and energy, please explain the transition to a sustainable circular economic principles, which is critical for both core business resilience and national and regional security, particularly in the business like Middle East and Asia.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so obviously, as you said in the beginning, this is a very complex topic. There is a global transition underway, and first what I like to do is keep things as simple as possible. Really simplify as much as we can. It's a very complex topic. We want to break it down to a good baseline, little branches up one by one so we can understand it. So my company, Nexus Resilience Group, we focus on the transition from linear to circular, water, energy, and food. Our main focus is water, so I'm going to just quickly break this down. So our belief is, when you approach any of this stuff, the first thing we go ahead is a philosophy. The next thing is a system, and only then is the technology to support the system. That's kind of our way of looking at it. So within that framework, what I'm going to do here is just sort of explain what we believe in terms of philosophy is that transition that's happening is sort of twofold in the world today. It sort of has to be this way, I think, ultimately. It becomes clearer as we go. One is linear to circular. So linear economy, use waste. You example, oil is very clear. Take oil, use it, find out resources, go on, take more. That's how it goes. Unfortunately, because of the mindset, we apply the same philosophy often to water. Take the water, use the water, use wastewater, just take some more. You just put on the tap, water comes off, that's it. We're going to have to change this. So if we look at specifically water and energy, linear to circular, and it's sort of two things I want to honing on. One is, in a linear economy, we treat water and energy as a stock. In other words, you put in a barrel, you put it in a bowl as a stock, use it up and it's gone. In the circular economy, we treat water and energy as they occur in nature. We try to align our economies with how water and energy occur naturally in nature, which is as a circular flow. So the example of energy comes from the sun, the plants use it, the plants buy it, and it's a circular flow. Solar panels makes use of this energy, it's renewable, it's possible renewable energy to use itself. With water, same thing, you take the water in the natural environment, flows down a mountain, you use it, and it flows back to the ocean, evaporates, goes into a circular cycle. So what we want to do is get our economy aligned with that, so we start to recycle water. It's an energy renewable resource, and we reuse it. So take, use, reuse. We've got to take, use, waste. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, there's a transition, which we believe is a parallel transition, which is from centralized to decentralized. So in centralized, in the linear economy, which is what we're here in terms of shipping, efficiency depends on scale. You have massive infrastructure, and I can be efficient because you have scale. In the future, we do largely to AI, and I want to get into this a little bit more. AI enables you to have efficient, decentralized infrastructure. So this is a key thing. And then I'll just finally want to say, I thought it was a very good answer earlier. The question was one of the rapid fires is profit or purpose. And the answer was very good. It's profit through purpose, essentially was the answer. Same kind of thing here. I don't think we have to look at the sustainability as something we compromise as economics. What we want to do is it actually benefits the economics. I'm going to give you one example. Here in the UAE, there's a solar energy parks up in the desert. They're some of the biggest ones in the world. And they're producing energy at about 1.5 US cents per kilowatt hour, which is about 5 times cheaper than the conventional grid. So that's just a very simple example. The second thing is you have resilience, because you have resilience of supply. The sun doesn't go away, especially in this region of the world. The sun's always there, whereas if you look at the flow of oil, you've got geopolitical events in this recent space of Hormuz get closed, or different truck get closed, and then you're in security concerns. So that's just kind of the philosophical background. I really want to just zoom out a little bit in terms of geopolitics. Something Wastrika and I have been talking about this a little bit. The same principle applies at the geopolitical level. So, when you manage water as a stock between countries, if you look at the last 120 years, the wars have been fought largely by oil. All the way to World War II, World War I, up to the present day, all the military wars fought over oil. Why? It's a finite stock. I'm going to control it. That means I've got power, I'm going to dictate to you what's going to do. So win, lose more. I'm going to win, you're going to lose, you're going to fight over. If we do this with water, we try to block it, do it as a stock, we interfere with nature. It's not going to be win, lose, it's going to be lose. The actual choice we have is either going to be win-win, collaborate, share technology and knowledge, as people said earlier, or it's going to be lose-lose, we're all going to do if we interfere with the flow of nature. So that's sort of the philosophy background.
Yes, we all look forward to have a win-win situation when it comes to water availability. Yeah, coming back to Mr. Rajesh again. So you are deeply involved in digital transformation and blockchain. Looking ahead, how can technologies like AI and IoT be leveraged to reduce reliance on supply chains and create a transparent, auditable, sustainability matrix needed to build investor and consumer trust?
See, in sustainability, obviously awareness is a big problem. We keep hearing statistics, and people don't realize their impact on the environment. But the other big challenge is provenance, having confidence in what is being said, or call it greenwashing, right? So when I use sustainability, we've got our framework, we are running initiatives. Just to give a simple example, when we get biofuel, we don't know if it is truly derived from it's a biofuel, right? I mean, we can easily be hoodwinked in getting, fossil fuel. Or for example, we're getting bags, right? Now they're saying these are made from recycled plastic or recycled paper. So we now actually get it tested. So before, because they're very worried about making claims, right? We are now auditing 10,000 suppliers upstream using the world's best audit firm in this, Elevate, or it's called Audit Register Quality Assurance, to audit our entire supply chain to make sure when we claim what raw materials, what processes are being used. So if I now quickly extend it to the bioenergy, right, what you're talking about today on the supply chains, I think if there is a blockchain which some industry group would put together to give the comfort and the provenance about what we are using as energy, I think it would be fantastic. So as a user, we would love to have that underlying infrastructure and obviously IoT devices and whatnot feeding blockchains, private-public partnership like blockchain, which a customer like us can rely on for the certification. I think that would be amazing. And it will build the trust, it will build the adoption faster. And people should be happier to pay a slight premium to that if it's got the data infrastructure.
To build adoption faster, we need to build the energy. That's good. Mr. Prasanna again. Your platform virtual. And so ESG putting more accessible. And I think this, how can it help the small businesses and ensuring that they benefit from this green economy rather than being excluded from this systems? So your platform is helping the small businesses.
Yeah, I'll just make a reference to what you just said about traceability. The end, what we're talking about is tracking data. Data is the fundamental aspect for us to be able to drive any change or drive any kind of decision or strategic decisions with respect to sustainability. Talking about sustainability, we have a gathering out here, and everybody will have a different perspective of what sustainability is or what it would mean, what it means to their company or what it means at all as a public point of view. When you're talking about an SME, small and medium-sized company, they are so focused that and kind of driven to stay alive in their business, and trying to meet with market challenges, competition, price fluctuations from their suppliers, energy issues, hundreds of routine core challenges. We try to go and tell them or preach sustainability to them. They want to say, how does it work for us? So what do you want us to do? What data do you want us to do? So what we have done through Vajra, which is actually a platform which we launched in the month of May, and only for the Indian industry. So it's not a global platform, it's a platform restricted for the Indian industry. We are launching another one which is a global platform. But for India, Vajra has been given free of cost. Because for SMEs today, they are already burdened with cost, they are already burdened with challenges, and they don't understand ESG or sustainability or carbon footprint measurements or any jargon which most consultants were there. What we basically are driving to most of the SMEs is you give us your routine data. You don't have to worry about learning the nuances of what is scope 1, what is scope 2, what is scope 3. We say you give us your routine data, whether it's electricity bills, whether it's your fuel consumption, whether it's your transport bills, your business travel, your employee travel, any of it. We capture the relevant information from those bills in our tech platform, in the SaaS platform. That gets converted into the relevant ESG data. That is the starting point for any effort to be made by a company to work towards reducing their costs, thereby reducing their emissions. There is a misnomer, people think that there is a drive only to reduce emissions. You can only reduce emissions if you reduce your costs. It can't be the other way around. The moment you start saying, I'm going to spend so much money to reduce emissions, that's not sustainable. You have to reduce costs, and by virtue of which you measure your parameters again and say, well, now my emissions are low. So data forms a starting point, and from data, you will identify what solution works for you. And I use very simple, easy references or analogies. When we talk about sustainability, we relate it to the human body. For example, if you're unwell, you go to a doctor. The doctor says, go and get your test done. He gets the test done so that he knows what is relevant, what kind of medication is applicable to you, and what kind of outcomes you want to draw out of that. Same goes with ESG data. If you don't do your measurements, you don't know what is possible in your routine business to reduce costs. So you have to start at least capturing the data and then take it forward. So data forms a starting point. Any analytics, any AI, anything that you want to introduce thereafter will only stand good if you got sufficient data. If you don't have enough data, no AI in the world can save you. This is our take on Vajra as well as
Good. See, as we are looking at alternatives to the fossil fuels, even I think in UAE and Saudi, they are also looking at alternative to the oil business and pushing more on industrialization. And when it comes to that, water is an important resource. So, Mr. Lu, why this? How can this intelligent management of water ensure the business results, particularly in this industrial business?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, I'm going to mention UAE and Saudi Arabia. There's a growth of industrial zones. So, the companies are coming up all over the world setting up industrial zones on the globe. There was a plan Saudi Arabia. And typically what you have is then back to what I said, you've got centralized versus decentralized. You have one big centralized wastewater plant in the middle, and you've got all these companies still setting up granted. That wastewater plant is engineered to deal with certain parameters of wastewater, certain chemistry of wastewater. Now you always other companies start setting up, and all have a different chemistry of wastewater. And because they make what I said earlier, people don't typically pay that much attention to the water that is sort of a suspected thought. All this wastewater goes into the network, into the sewers, as well as to that centralized plant. Now what happens is that plant gets overwhelmed. The operators can't deal with all this chemistry that's coming, especially certain bad actors, and maybe in the middle of the night they're dumping all kinds of stuff they're not supposed to. And typically what happens is these plants don't have real-time data. They have some basic data. They have some same like routine data, but they don't have real-time data. And so what we do is we install either IoT sensors, as you said, to generate the real-time data to measure certain parameters, allow that the operators can see exactly what's coming as it arrives, and they can adjust the processes accordingly. The problem is certain parameters cannot be measured with IoT sensors. For example, there's something called biological oxygen demand. I'm not going to get too technical, but basically it's organics. So, for example, in sewage, you've got organics, you need to reduce that before it can be released. So the problem is you can't measure that biological oxygen demand DOD with IoT sensors. So now what are you going to do? You've got to send the water to a laboratory. You're going to test it, comes back, it might take a week. By the time it comes back, I know you've only got 4 meetings a month. You can't optimize the plant based on that, so it's a major problem. So what we're doing is we're developing something called virtual sensors. So this is actually applying AI to the water sector. So we're developing an algorithm so that what we do is the DOD that you want, you don't measure it directly, you collect all other data, and back to what you were saying, it's very common sense explanation here. You aggregate all this other data and you find non-intuitive correlations between that data and this data. And then you develop a mathematical algorithm. So when you collect enough data, you can start to estimate very accurately what that parameter is. And now once you have real-time data across all those parameters, it's very easy to apply AI to optimize the process. Those operators are not free to work on other things. They're learning as well, the educational process. And so that's one thing that you do, optimize existing infrastructure. And the second thing you do is identify, as I said, certain bad actors upstream. So now you go upstream and you can do a decentralized wastewater treatment plant on the premises of, let's say it's a company that's doing some complex chemicals. They're dumping bad stuff, so you do it on site and recycle water on site. Now only a little bit of bad stuff comes down the pipe. So you never do balance, centralized and decentralized, and actually optimize existing infrastructure.
By the way, we are signatories of Safety HC, the Zero Discharge Standard. And so this technology would be useful because we have the problem of auditing 10,000 suppliers and getting regular reports on their discharge. And we would remove them from our supply chain if we got data that they are dumping and now the bad character as you are talking about.
Yeah, I think one of the things when it comes to water, you and I were discussing is the general challenge with anything to do with water, unfortunately, is when we talk about biofuels and fossil fuels, they're all eyebrow-raised because we're talking about a monetary value which seems to impact your business or your day-to-day cost. So when it comes to water, water is a cheap commodity. People say actually water, so what? Right? But they don't understand that in the longer run, it's going to become so difficult if they don't focus on circularity of water. They don't focus on improving their assets of utilization of water. It's going to start reflecting on their business. So we talk about sustainability, we also talk about agility, we also talk about negative impacts caused by natural resources depleting. Water is one such resource which is undervalued, but is actually one of the most important components of our day-to-day life, of our day-to-day industry.
So in this circular sustainability, the most critical factor in water is most undervalued factor.
It's most undervalued, right? Frankly, when you look at India, you have fair deal of sewage treatment plants being installed. Some amount of sewage treatment plants, especially for chemical industry, and people who have got utilization of chemicals, and they have to follow the norms of the respective states pollution control boards. To that extent, there is an expense that is, it's an expense, it's considered an expense. and they don't consider it as a responsibility.
Conceptual management we are doing.
It's all about perception. So the transition from, expense to responsibility is absolutely essential to drive the basic sustainability modules in companies.
I think this really drives it with our entire sustainability of bioenergy. This is very important. This perspective, it's not cost. It's a responsibility that we have to consider. I think with this, I would like, if there are any questions from the audience, because we already have a perspective from our panelists. Can somebody give it to one?
Hi, I think I am loud enough. Okay.
Please, tell your name and
Sure.
then-
Yes. Firstly, congratulations on this initiative and myself, Prasad. Basically, I have a different thing. Basically, just I've written down: is sustainability just a hype or a feel-good factor word? Because I don't see it in the cyclic thing. As somebody also mentioned, that is it a CSR or to evade or get benefits of green tax? Because I know a few companies buy brand new plastic, recycles it into green fuel, and then it is shipped in Jabal Ali on the same ship which is emitting fuel. So where is it? I don't know. Means because everything has to be in the same thing. Otherwise, we are just doing it because we feel good. Oh, I'm working into this. One thing, and also. Means I think it has to go to the root cause of not wasting it at all, of water, fuel, whatever. Like batteries, they are recharged on what? Combustion of fuel. So I don't know. I'm just
So,
asking, thinking out loud. So thank you.
We use very large amount of material, right? So we are not a prestige luxury brand who has such high margins that they can get whatever, sustainable raw materials, whatever. We use 52,000 tons of cotton every year, 60,000 tons of polyester, right? So we are, for example, all our brands under one are mandating, so let's say Splash and Max. If any of the supplier does not have 100% water recycling, because dyeing is a very big activity which causes 5,000 swimming pool, 5,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools equivalent of dye just for us. Just for us. So we are not allowing our suppliers to throw the dyes into the rivers. Now, because we are the large brands, we want to take that step, right? Now, is it 100%? Maybe not. Maybe there are some bad suppliers who are hoodwinking, but that must be now only 1 or 2%. Versus what it was 5 years ago. So I'm just giving you one example. One by one, that's how we are approaching it. And if large players like us make, and volume players, right? Not luxury brands. I mean, Louis Vuitton sells, I don't know, 1 millionth of the number of bags I sell. So if I don't fix it, who will fix it? So that's how large brands are taking those steps. So obviously, hopefully customers will appreciate that and buy those brands and not buy brands which are totally irresponsible.
Yeah, I'll just add to what you're saying. In fact, the second part of the question, somehow tended to answer your first part. You asked a question and you answered it yourself in a way. When you talk about sustainability, this is why I said there are various perspectives of what sustainability is in this audience and basically everywhere. What is that one thing about sustainability that matters to everyone? The one word is continuity. Whether it's business continuity or availability of any resource on a continuous basis, right? So when we talk about, when you say it's a hype, is it a fire or whatever? No, it isn't. I would strongly disagree there. The reason why all of this is happening is because we are seeing the impacts of our unsustainable, let us say, past on climate today. I mean, let's not ignore climate change. All of this is happening because there is climate change. We are seeing it, we are feeling it. Summers are hotter, we are finding irregular rain, the patterns are changing. So obviously something has shifted. Now, there's a lot of scientific data that which all of this is being worked out, but we can't isolate one particular aspect and say plastics are bad or something else is bad. When people talk about plastics and say plastics is causing all the problem, but it's not plastics that's causing the problem. You don't have a replacement of plastic today. You know, it's there in almost every component, the phone that you're using, in your automobiles, at home. You're using plastics, so you can't curse what you're using. But it's all about, at the end, as humans, as consumers, how are we accepting responsibility towards what we are consuming, and how are we contributing towards ensuring that that is properly put into a cycle where it can be recycled and reused. It's a gradual process. We've been committing this error for a long time. It doesn't mean that we should keep doing it. Today there is a little bit of a realization, there is an awakening. There will be a lot of questions asked. People will say, well, this is a fact. You can't, bring a change if you don't adapt. And the word today is adaptability. We need to adapt, we need to be resilient. We have to recognize that there are changes, and we have to understand that it's our habit and our conscious patterns that is causing those changes.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry to interrupt. I was about to say the same. It needs to be addressed at the base level. That's all.
Sure. We'll take this last question, but
Yes.
yes.
The question is to Mr. Rajiv sir. You wear two caps, one as a CFO and one as a CSO. Both are contradictory in many cases. So how you mitigate such challenges a case?
No, they're not at all contradictory. Because, no, not at all. Because if you're really worried about the sustainability of your business, you will look at environmental and financial sustainability both. You cannot coexist. I mean, everything we're doing today, we're basically heavily subsidizing, but the subsidy is coming from your future generations. Anything you buy today is half the price, maybe, or even every flight you take. Basically, your children and grandchildren are going to pay a very heavy price of that. But on to your specific thing, I think we have to balance. As I said, removing dollars from your value chain is also removing carbon. So the initial journey we've seen, energy management, right? We are saving money, right? We are now recycling our textiles. We put up the region's first, our own textile recycling facility in PwC. We're working with the government. I'm on the UAE Circular Economy Council trying to help drive the change. But we are now finding B2B opportunities. So we are generating revenue as well. So I think it's that plunge you have to take. You have to be confident that as a brand, if you spend on sustainability, you will be rewarded. There may be a slight timing gap, but I think I don't see them at all being contradictory.
I can say one thing very quickly to support what you said. If you look everywhere all across history, all economies and the foundation of the economy is water and energy. And if the water and energy economy is sustained, the whole economy is sustained. And so the water and energy must be sustained, and food is there as well. The entire system can crash down. People see that now. So it definitely is not in conflict. Yes, it's not a perfect alignment, but that's why we get to alignment. And we're going to use data and all these things we're doing here to get people to understand that this is not a contradiction.
Exactly. Everything that is before efficiency is about cost reduction. It translates to cost and that only saves those people time.
That's right.
Well, I think thank you. This we come to the end of the session. So I thank the panelists for bringing out the topic very nicely. And I'm sure we all got that we are still into transition mode for the sustainability. It's challenging, but we need to overcome it. We need to keep on continue with that our efforts. And then there is an opportunity for developing technologies or building the processes, using different tools to make it happen in a most, I would say, not economical but reasonable way. And we also have to shift our perspective from cost to what is termed as a responsibility by one of the panelists. With this, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you each one of you in the room for participating in this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prasad. Ladies and gentlemen,
Before we do the honors for our distinguished panelists, may we please continue and give a huge round of applause to our esteemed dignitaries who join us here today. Shri B.G. Krishnan sir, a humble thanks to you for joining us here today. Thank you so much, sir. With holy hands we welcome you. Ladies and gentlemen, to be honors and to present tokens of love as mementos to our distinguished panelists and the moderator, may we please welcome on stage renowned industrialists, Rajesh Pokharkar sir and Swapnil Bajaj. May we please welcome them both and request them to kindly present a token of love memento to our distinguished panelists, Rajesh Pokharkar ji and Swapnil Bajaj ji. The industrialists who joined us here from Mumbai, from India. Ladies and gentlemen, just a word about sustainability since we spoke about biofuels and sustainability. Truly is the need of the hour, and we will speak about everything. This is what I learned last month, and we've been experiencing the drastic climate changes, and the only way to save the environment is now that we are a little bit late in planting trees. Bamboo is the only tree which is the fastest growing tree, which gives 35% more oxygen than other trees and absorbs maximum carbon dioxide. So this is what I've learned, that we are already in a very difficult situation. So sustainability truly is the need of the hour. But we please once again for our distinguished panelists and give it up for Mr. Rakesh Garg, Mr. Prasanna Rao, Mr. Luke Evans, and Mr. Praveen Mittal. Very brilliantly moderated by Mr. Ravindra Boratkar. Humble thanks to all our distinguished panelists and the moderator of this session, and Sachin-ji. Finally, I'm seeing a smile, a little smile on your face. Thank you. I'm so glad. Wow. I'm relaxed.
Friends, we will take only 10 minutes of yours because Honorable Krishnan sir has arrived. Today we had such a great day here and we had great celebrations. So Krishnan sir will